officers arrested a serving Metropolitan police officer at an address in Kent in connection with the disappearance of Sarah Everard.
How safe is it to be a woman in the United Kingdom? The shocking murder of Sarah Everard has got people asking this question, and one of the shocking things about the story is it would appear to look likely that it was a police officer who murdered her. Police have been granted more time to question a serving officer on suspicion of the murder of Sarah Everard following discovery of human remains. Wayne Couzens remains in custody at a London police station after an application to extend his detention was granted at Wimbledon Magistrates Court. So, what is it about this story that has given it news value? Why this particular murder is being talked about more than other similar cases? Some people have raised the question, if this was a non-white woman, would we be giving it the same amount of exposure? There's some stories about black women killed in similar circumstances that seem to fly under the radar, that didn't get the same limelight as a white woman being murdered by a police officer. Maybe it's the fact that a police officer looks likely to be the culprit that gives this story news value.
The man who's been arrested is a serving Metropolitan police officer. It's both shocking and deeply disturbing.
Because the police force, the police service, are meant to be there to serve and protect. And when one of them murders an innocent woman, it's the exact opposite of what we would hope to expect from them. But what about this question of whether women are safe? We've had a member of Parliament stand up and say that it might be a good idea that there's a curfew for men after 6 p.m.
At the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer.
Let's have a little look at the statistics. Homicide in England and Wales, the year ending March 2018, for example. Now, homicide is not just murder, it is being killed at the hands of another human being for any reason, which could include murder, might also include manslaughter or accidental killing. There's also unlawful killing. We know there's a whole spectrum of verdicts when it comes to dying at the hands of someone else. So let's have a look at who is likely to kill whom and some of the breakdown on gender. As in previous years, the majority of suspects convicted of homicide were male. 94%. So not surprising, the vast majority of people that kill other people are men. Remember, we're not just talking murder, could be manslaughter, etc., etc. The vast majority, 94% of killers are male. So maybe this politician's onto something. Maybe we do need to lock all men up for the safety of women so that women can feel safer, because it's clearly mainly men that attack and kill women. Now remember, in order to make women in public feel safe, this MP called for a curfew against men. Figure 6. Female homicide victims were most likely to be killed in or around a house or dwelling, while most male homicides took place in the street. Right, so actually, we're saying that men need to be locked up so that women can feel safe outside the house. Some people in the past have mistakenly told women to stay at home in order to feel safe. But actually, women, it would appear from this statistic, are safer out and about than they are in the home. Women are more likely to be killed by a partner or a family member and are more likely to be murdered in a home or dwelling than they are in the street, and men are more likely to be murdered in the street. Most male homicides took place in the street. So we have this difference between perception and reality, and the fear and the fear-mongering that goes with horror stories widely publicized about women being attacked by strangers in the street, which is awful, which is horrendous, which is newsworthy, but it is not a reflection of reality. And perhaps it's misleading. Perhaps this is giving women the wrong idea about how to protect themselves, if actually you are more at risk at home from, say, an abusive partner. And as you all know, over the past 12 months, we've all spent a lot more time at home, and women who are trapped in abusive relationships will have been far more at risk because of that situation. In 2018, a third of women were killed by their partner or ex-partner. Compare that with only 1% of male victims aged 16 and over were killed by their partner or ex-partner. So here we see who women are really at risk from. It is the abusive partners or ex-partners. That counts for 33% of the female victims. Men were most likely to be killed by a stranger, 35%, and this was an increase of 51% on the previous year. Women were less likely to be killed by a stranger, 17%. So it is men who are twice as likely to be murdered by a stranger than women. Yet it is women who are receiving all these messages of stranger danger, clutching your keys, looking over your shoulder while you're walking down a dark alley. I'm not saying don't be wary of that, but the statistics show it is men who are more at risk from being killed in such a way. And even men who are 35% killed by a stranger, it still would seem that the other 65% of the time they are being killed by someone that they know. So maybe our whole perception of what is likely to happen, who is likely to attack you, who is likely to kill you, is very warped. We are all more likely to be killed by someone we know or someone we are related to, or a partner or ex-partner. And it is women who are even more likely to be killed in that type of scenario than men. Although men are more likely to be killed by a stranger, and men are more likely to kill a stranger, men are just generally more likely to be involved in a violent incident. It's important not to forget that women are more likely to be the victims of harassment, sexual assault, and crimes of that nature. And maybe that is why a story like this gains so much traction, because it's kind of the epitome of the worst case scenario of all those things. And I think the fact that it's a police officer that may be responsible for this horrific crime, that kind of rubs salt into the wound, because we're fed up of seeing the police committing horrible atrocities, and often they get away with it because of their badge, because of their uniform. The police that murdered Jean-Charles de Menezes, an innocent Brazilian man, as he dashed to try to get on the tube, or the police that killed George Floyd, the police whose incompetence led to the deaths of 96 Liverpool fans at a football match. We're kind of sick and tired of it.
Our inquiries suggest that this officer was not on duty at the time of Sarah's disappearance.
Although I've kind of argued the point that men are more likely to be the victims of murder, and I probably sound a little bit like I'm bemoaning that fact. Maybe there is something more tragic about the murder of an innocent woman. On the ships, we always say women and children first, because their life has more value, doesn't it? They are the ones that can give life. They are the ones that will nurture the next generation. And the men, particularly the police officers, are meant to protect those women and those children. And when they do the exact opposite, it's understandable that we would find that utterly repulsive.